So, hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 63, and in this video we are talking about errors, mistakes in general in programming. So first of all, what is an error in programming? There are different kind of errors. A simple error is just when I make here, for example, I delete this one, I start the program, and the compiler complains you have made an error here. I can't use this code what you write, and then you have to fix this error. So okay, now we know what an error is. Well, let's say what the compiler realized as an error, but we want to talk in general here about errors, so not about the compiler complaining. What are considered in programming as a programmer a real error and a not real error, and so on. Let's get started. First of all, you have to forget a little bit the school system rankings. And so what you know from school, you get grades, you get points, or you get whatever in school you learned so far. And this kind of things you have forget in programming. Why? Because let's make an example and then we see. For example, this was the last exercise, and when I count the errors which I made in this exercise and count it all together, I would get the worst grade ever. Why? Because all over the place it is bad coding. And why is this bad coding? Let me show you things. So first of all, I have not cleaned it up. I have just thrown it in. I have not sorted, styled it, checked it, and I have not even finished this exercise. I was too lazy after writing 600 lines, copy pasting and changing the variables. I said, okay, that's enough for demonstration purposes. And yeah, and this kind, when you all that kind see and count, you will get probably the worst grade ever in your life. And right now I said forget this in programming. This is in programming not true. What I mean with that, wait a minute, means that I get a good grading. Well, not a good grading, but in programming this is actually not considered an error. What I made there, I made there a million mistakes. I have not commented, I have not find here the best structures. Probably I have not, I don't know, explained all comments right here, or find good solutions for, I don't know, to print out or make the code easier to find best variables. So why is that not an error? Why is that in programming not a real error? This is the question here. The point is, in programming, is this considered to be not a real error because they are easy fixes, which means if I move my ass here down and sit and spend again a little bit time, I can fix these errors within 1 day, 2 days, or within some days. Let's say 1 week, I could make this code perfect. For example, I can comment all, I finish my lazy work, which means I finish this code, I try to find better structures, and so on. So with other words, this kind of errors which I made here are easy fixable. So within some days, for some seconds or some minutes, depends on your knowledge and how you trained you are. Let me show you what I mean with that. Let's say I make here some errors, so some compiler errors, because that's also a very important note. These errors, what I showed you here, are no compiler errors. Interesting, yes, because the code was working. So there was not a real mistake. It was not just finished. And all the setup for the code was more or less given. So this is also not an error, but how I made this and how I styled this and so on. In school system, I would get the worst grade. In programming, Nobody cares about that. In programming, they care that if you can sit again down and start to rework your code and fix this fast, this is not an error. Let me show you the errors which I make here. Let's make here an error. Let's make here perhaps an error. And let's make here also an error. So if I compile now this one, I get many errors, but this kind of errors are considered also be no errors. These are compile errors, but easy, fast, fixable. I can just click here. It jumps then to this place. It says there is something wrong with this syntax. It expects, for example, here what it says. It says type history cannot be defined in the current scope because, and why not? For example, we can read here a little bit more. It says syntax unexpected type string, and then, okay, for example, the reason for that is when we go here a little bit down the arrow checks, we would see there is this one here, syntax error missing semicolon. Aha, before identifier books. Okay, the identifier books is here, and before that must be a semicolon. Yes, easy fix, one. Then let's go on. We can compile here, just fix one and check the next error. Okay, no. Okay, now we have syntax error missing an equal sign before, no, so missing a square bracket sign before this equal sign. Let's jump in. Here is a square bracket. Easy fix. That was instantly fixed, right? Let's check one more time. And right now it works. That's strange. Did I not one more error here? I should. I'm not sure. It shows not. But I thought I did here one more error. Yeah, probably. No, not. I'm not sure. Anyway, I thought I did one more error, but let's say this was it. And what I mean with that is, you see, these errors are fast. We can fix them instantly when we rework the code. In programming, this kind of errors which you can fix instantly, like here in some checks, or with some work, for example, like my bad commenting, we have no clue what this part of code does here, or when I scroll down why I did this all here. When I comment here, I can write now comments here to make it more readable, or with style, which means I can check style pattern and look if the style is already in programming code. For example, if there is a easy combination, Control K F is auto style for Visual Studio, but style, I mean, it could be also something like that, you know, that your code looks something that one. It still works, but style is awkward, right? And then you make, okay, that looks bad. Let's fix this fast, and a fast fix is already Control K F already jumps here and styles better. Or you may find here, I don't know, millions of fixes. So important is what you can fix fast in programming in general will be not considered to be as a real error. An error would be if the program, of course, is not working. So for example, if you start your program, this one runs not like the requirement. The requirement is, for example, in our case, in this access case was it that it's not fulfilling the requirements. This would be definitely a real error, because you get a task and you have not achieved this task. So in programming, that's very important, but the code, what you write, how long you take for the code, and how you achieved your goal later, nobody cares. Because let me make you an example. Let's say we make here creating a game. A gamer, for example, a normal consumer who downloads a game will never ask the developer, how long have you made this game and which keywords you used. The gamer will just try to have fun, and he will be satisfied when all that what he expects comes true. For example, he buy a fight game, then he would just want fight and expect that all works smoothly and that's it. And he will complain if the game is not working or the game is not working smoothly like he expected. So that's very important for a programmer. And one more note, of course, if you are working for a company, that's a different story. The company will pressure you, hard pressure you with time and style and so on. But in general, the result counts. So I talked about many errors, mistakes, which is not very important. And I said for these errors in school grading, you would get the worst grade, but forget about that. In programming, you get here still a good grade, and then it's and then we can what I mean with that is in normal programming this is easy fixable, so no problem, that's perfect. Not perfect, but almost perfect, because as long as you fix it and the end result satisfies the consumer, it's perfect. So but what is then a real error in programming, right? We have to talk about real errors. What is a real error? A critical error. But you will hear this word critical errors in programming. One error I showed you already, which you should avoid definitely, is if you run the program satisfies not the requirement. For example, you make a game and the consumer buys a game. He don't care how you code this game, but if he can't start the game or he can't play the game because there was an error in the gameplay, so he can't perform his gameplay, or he can't use a normal game, that would be one critical error, because you fixed it not and sold it, or you make it free available, and they will complain. But one more thing, this one is not a real critical error. This one is, but it's still considered as a critical error because you have failed the consumer, and that is normally a very, very critical error in general. But there are different kind of critical errors, and that's the point what we are talking now. Real critical errors which can cause real big problems. And actually that was already one critical error which caused a problem. If this consumer is not satisfied, they say, this game sucks because I can't play it, or then you have made something really wrong, right? But this kind of error, that the game is playable, is actually easy checkable, right? You just start and then you test your game or app or what you are programming, and actually easy fixable, right? Not easy, I would not say easy, but it is still fixable in the development. But when we talk in programming about critical errors, there are problems which are not easy fixable, and they are the worst. And interesting is, when I said you should forget about school grades, right? Points and so. Interesting is, let's assume you write a perfect program, and when you start, it works perfect. And this perfect program would get in school points and grades, the best grade and with perfect score. But the problem is, this could be in real programming, in the real world, the worst. Why? Because most time some programs have critical errors, and one of this critical error means it appears that, let's say you wrote a super program, it appears there is no mistake, style is perfect, all structures is perfect, all comments are perfect, and all thing appears perfect, and when you tested it, it's perfect too. But then in real life, when it's sold out, it appears that comes there a point which it is not working. And that is considered then as a critical problem. Why? Because it was not even visible during development, and that can cause big problems. Why? First of all, this can cause even life problems if the system, your program, is used, for example, in a danger place, and this case is not covered, right? They don't know it because there was a critical error in it. Let me make an example. You make a plane program software to navigate where I don't know anything, and then it appears a critical program and the plane is it's crashing because you crapped this program. It was not covered. It was not seen during development. Or there are other critical programs which also causes big problems. For example, in security, your program worked perfect. It was absolute stunning, but then you have not covered all cases, and your program was, for example, in a bank or in any important field in the online anywhere, and a hacker found your source code, which means he can analyze your code behind the scenes, and he saw this programmer has not checked one condition, and at this condition he uses to exploit your code, which means he hack your code and the bank, and then he can hack millions of consumer of the bank. And the reason was because your code was not visible for you have not checked all conditions, and this is also considered to be a very critical error. Because, and what I want to point out is you should get a feeling. A critical error means sometimes the code is perfect in real programming and can cause real problems in real life, because the problem was that it was so perfect in development that you assume your code was right. It will not happen anything. You have developed it perfect. But that's the critical point. It was not perfect, and the error appears then later, and that causes problems and problems. So this was one critical example. So life-threatening problems, bank money threatening problems, and many problems which occurs later, even if you had perfect code. Compared to my code, for example, my code is crap, but believe me, this code, if I fix it, it has no critical errors because nobody cares about this code. No, that was a joke. And let's go here. There is one more critical element in programming. So one thing you can't find during development, but there is one more critical. And this critical error you can find during the development. What is that? So let's compare it. Again, I say forget this school grade system in programming. For example, my code had here, let's say, 10,000 errors, but all these 1,000 errors I can fix with a rework easy. But let's say you write also a long code, let's say 10,000 lines, and your code is perfect, but it has only one error, right? Compared to mine, which has 1,000 errors, your code has only one error. The problem is your error, because when it's a critical error, this error is not easy fixable. Like I said before, if you have errors which are easy fixable, which means a little bit rework, it's not considered an error. But if you haven't found an error which causes that your whole code, let's say you write 1,000 lines of codes, must be reworked, which means not that you fix it, which means you sit you're down and have to write the whole coding system again because it's a critical error. That's take not a week at most to fix it. It can cost to fix it 1 month or more. That is considered in programming also a critical error, because if you spend more 1 month just to fix one little error which you not considered, and yeah, this is the other kind which programmers hate, and too bad this kind of errors occurs sometimes and break whole systems in programming. And let's say you worked on a programming, I don't know, project for 7 months, and then if it appears there is a critical error which causes you that you from the 7 months you have rework 3 months again just because of this critical error. This is crazy, right? You work 7 months and then 3 months again, and there are even worse case than that. But like I said, let's come to the end. As a beginner, what we have to understand. As a beginner, you should understand in general, if the code is easy fixable, just it is not considered as a error or a mistake, because most times you just check the compiler or you just rework your code a little bit, which means not rewrite it from whole again, just write comments to make it a little bit clear, or you make another iterations step for checks, bind in checks, or you make style checks and so on, or you make something like profiling, which we have also not made, and so on. Profiling means make the code better and so on. But this kind of stuff is not considered to be an error. So for example, what I made with my code here, I could finish this one. This is not really considered as an error, but it is also not considered to be good, but it's not critical. And critical means, yes, you have a problem. And the worst case is you can have a big problem if your code causes life. For example, I don't know, you wrote a medicine program, and the medicine program which they used, for example, for laser eye operation, and so has a malfunction because you checked that your code perfectly. There was a critical error which not occurred during development, and that could cause, for example, a person's eye loss or life. I don't know, depends, right? And there are so many cases where critical errors can cause big problems, or many problems occurs also with this hacker problems with banks and I don't know, accounts and so on, because you have wrote a system and it was not checked to all conditions, and the hacker had analyzed your code and saw, he checked not all conditions, it's easy to hack, and then he just exploit this one point where you have not checked it, and then he get access to the whole bank system, and then the bank will complain about you because it was your program that causes this whole mess. I think you get slightly the idea what I hope you get the idea what in programming it's important. So just to say, in programming, try to not make critical mistakes, and that's very hard to say actually, because like I said, the one group is your code looks perfect, your code is checked, and it still can happen that you missed one situation. And that's the hard part in programming. So if you make some let's say dangerous apps in I mean not dangerous apps, I mean apps where where it can be danger for people or for other things, then you have to check it probably 1,000 times to try making sure not to have a critical error. Okay, I think I talked here much too more than I have to, but this is a very important, also too very important as beginner. So that's why I say all time, make many mistakes and don't care about it as long as you can fix it. So what I mean with that is all time when I said this in my videos is these are not considered as real mistakes as long as you can fix this mistake. So you write your code and then you write a code, for example, compiler check it, the compiler shows all the errors, and then you go in and then fix it. That means that was not real mistakes, that was just mistakes, just random mistakes which you made on the fly. For example, I typed accidentally while I was coding here in half asleep SF, and then I saved it and I go on and never saw this one here, and then compiled. Oh, what is complaining? It is saying there is something wrong. Oh, I wanted not wrote this one, fix, perfect, and go on. That that I mean with, if you can fix all these mistakes fast, it's perfect as a beginner. If you can fix these mistakes with research, also perfect. What I mean with research as a beginner, you go to the web and check what other people wrote about this problem or solution, show their solution and use their solution, also perfect. Because as a beginner, that's the job what you have. Make mistakes, and as long as you can solve the mistakes, no problem. The problem is, and then we come to the cases with critical errors. If it's a critical error, means you will not probably solve this within 1 week and so on. And that is then a problem. Or don't forget, this is also a problem if you don't satisfy the requirements. For example, this requirements mean just what the program should do, right? But this one is actually during development easy to fix because you are working towards that in general. But if it's not doing, then you have a problem too. Yeah. Okay, I think I talked much again, and I hope that you understand you can make many mistakes as long as you can fix them, no problem. And that makes us programmer as a beginner more easy, right? Not under pressure. You say, yeah, I can make mistakes, and if I can fix it, it's okay. If I can't fix it, yes, it's a problem. And try all time use also the research on web, of course, right, to fix it. And that's it. I think I stop here now, and if you have any questions again, ask in the comments and I will try to answer them. Bye for now and good luck.